Hello everyone. Let's start our today's video conference. The non-identification. With the things of daily life. And why do we judge others? Well, if we identify with anything in life or anybody in life, if we identify, the consciousness falls asleep. The consciousness falls asleep. Right? The wakefulness is lost. The wakefulness is lost. Right? Let's comprehend it. Life is a film. Right? Life is, yes, like a film full of different comedies, tragedies, and dramas, without exception for each one of us. Right? Full of scenes. The film, the movie of our life is full of scenes. And those scenes are built by, yes, by our own psychological defects, or all those that produce all those dramas, comedies, tragedies. Right? That's why it's not right, it's not correct to identify with each one of us or with any one of them. Alright? Because everything in life passes. No matter what. Everything in life passes. Right? People pass. Ideas pass. Right? Things pass. Everything is illusory. All is illusory. All is illusory in this external world, in this third dimension. What we should be interested in is that called the being, the consciousness. Because the being doesn't pass. The being is the being. When we fall into the different, yes, tragedies, comedies, and dramas of life, we fall into the fascination, into the unconsciousness of the psychological dream. But to identify with any tragedy, comedy, or drama, firstly, we identify with ourselves. it means that we lose the self-observation in our psychological country, which is the most important thing for us. If honestly we want to transcend, if seriously we want to get to achieve an authentic verification. Only through self-observation we start the serious path to don't identify with the different events we face in life daily. Right? If we don't self-observe our inner thoughts, emotions, sexual desires, instincts, and so on, we fall into the fascination of life. Remember, all is illusory, no matter what. Everything passes and remains back in time, is left behind in time. Right? There is a specific statement that says something like this: there is no evil that lasts 100 years, or body that resists it. Alright? That's why everything, no matter what it is, it's illusory. Everything passes. And more when we face different types of problems in life. All of us have had problems. Different type of inconvenience, obstacles, problems in life. Alright? And problems are based on fears. Excuse me, yes. On fears. As long as we continue thinking on our problems, financial problems, problems with our physical family, with our co-workers, in our job, etc., etc., we make them bigger. We make them more and more dangerous to us. But if we work on the psychological effect of fear, if we delete it, problems become nothing. But the clue is always guide our self-observation to our psychological country, to our inner world. Because fears make them bigger. Alright? And it's a wasting of time and energies to continue thinking in problems because there is no reason, it doesn't make sense. It's better to grab the bull by the horns and face the problem. Right? But as long as we continue thinking on the problems, we make them bigger and bigger. Right? The clue is to, yes, again and again and all over again, to lead our inner attention and detect our own fears that make them bigger. Delete it with our own Divine Mother, with that inner petition, after detecting the fears that are causing or that are making them bigger. Right? We are afraid of anything. We are afraid of life. We are afraid of death. We are afraid of not having money. Right, for example. We are afraid of what else? Hunger, misery, etc., etc. Alright? But remember, everything passes and is left behind in time. Always, no matter what it is. And in fact, all our tragedies, dramas, problems are the biggest opportunity to discover ourselves, to discover, to detect all the different types of psychological defects that created them, right? But if we identify with the problem that we are facing in our daily life, our consciousness falls asleep. Right? That wakefulness is lost. Remember, everything passes. Obviously, it is essential to learn to face the problems, all those inconvenience, obstacles that we find in our lives. But the worst thing we can do with ourselves, specifically if honestly we want to transcend, to achieve our own self-realization, to become ourselves in something very different, the best is to don't get identified with anything we face in life. I know it's easy to say and hard to apply, to do. But little by little, gradually, we persevere, working with self-observation and the inner petition when we discover, when we detect all those psychological inner defects that control and govern our lives, all those desperations, fears, worries, anxieties, etc., etc. That's for sure, without a doubt, the best opportunity to not only to discover ourselves, but also to delete all those negative inner states, right? Being controlled by our fears, by our anxieties, by all those violent inner reactions, we won't resolve anything. We won't correct anything, but the opposite, and all of us know it. That's why we may affirm more than always that this is the great opportunity to discover ourselves and to react in a different way. Thanks to that inner observation, to that inner self-discovery, and hopefully to that elimination, dissolution of those psychological effects, to don't react in the typical way that we've been reacting. Alright? That's why it's essential, it's crucial to don't identify with the things of daily life. Alright? If we don't identify with any event of life, drama, comedy, tragedy, in the problem, in the event, in that tragedy, in that drama, we discover ourselves. Alright? And that's the idea, that's the goal. I don't want to bother you, but remember, everything passes. But our consciousness is the unique thing in our lives. Is the only important, essential, and crucial in our lives. Alright? So, when we discover, when we detect any psychological defect, it's the opportunity to delete it to analyze it, to reflect on it, right? Because next time, hopefully, we will react in a wise way, in a correct way, in a more conscious way, right? Usually, all those external influences govern our lives, right? We react, facing them, we react in a mechanical way. But working with self-observation, with perseverance, grain by grain, day by day, little by little, we'll develop our own self-observation and we'll control probably all those external events. We'll manage them in a different way, thanks to the work on ourselves, thanks to the esoteric work on ourselves. Alright? When we detect the defect, analyze it, reflect on it carefully, and immediately remember the inner petition to your Divine Mother mentally, from the bottom of your heart. My Divine Mother, please delete me this anxiety, this fear, this violence, etc., etc. Depending on what you detect in your psychological country, in your mind, in your psyche. Right? That's why we may affirm here that the worst circumstances of life are the best opportunities to discover ourselves. Because it's obvious that the worst events that we face in our lives, during our human existences, produce inside of each one of us the most terrible and horrible reactions, right? And all those reactions are managed or produced by our psychological defects. We are the only responsible for our own mistakes. When we identify with the drama, comedy, or tragedy that occurs, that happens daily, we don't discover ourselves. We fall asleep. Alright? That's very important to analyze as well. It's necessary to identify the psychological defect that is controlling ourselves, that is controlling our mind in a specific moment or instant of our day. Right? Usually all those psychological defects that project themselves in others, they try that inside of each one of us, we are identified with them, right? To don't identify them, right? So we won't discover them and we won't delete them, right? They make us identify with the external event to don't detect them, right? That's why this is a work with perseverance, with discipline, little by little, grain by grain, and gradually we'll get it, we'll achieve it. We'll control ourselves more correctly from instant to instant, gradually. Alright? So for our own esoteric work, it's fundamental to start a stage of fighting against our own psychological defects. That incessant fight to don't identify with the external things of life. But yes, at the same time, live life in a natural, in a spontaneous way. Right? In a wise way. If we are deleting, dissolving our own psychological defects, we'll be living life in a wise way. More and more wisely, little by little, day per day. Alright? Because if we see the current situation of our society all around the world, we are facing daily problems in a mechanical way, with mechanical reactions that are for sure caused by our own psychological defects, all those psychological creations. Right? Now, let's analyze the situation with judging others, please. Well, something that is a different aspect that is avoiding us of knowing ourselves, of achieving the awakening of our consciousness is to accept that we don't know ourselves. That's the first reality. We don't know ourselves. Right? And if we continue thinking that we seriously and already know ourselves, we'll die deceived. We'll die deceived. Right? That is very important to analyze that aspect. That is avoiding us of awakening of our own consciousness. We don't know ourselves. So if we don't know ourselves, how we think that we can judge others' lives, others' behaviors? Remember that ancient Greek statement. Man, know yourself, and you shall know the universe and its gods. And it's something literal. It is not symbolical, but literal. Alright? And it probably leads us to the fact that every single person is our own mirror in which we should see ourselves. Every single person is our own mirror. We reflect, in fact, we reflect our own mistakes, our own psychological behaviors in others. And that's why we judge them. So we are deceived. We've been sleeping and dreaming since thousands of years ago, literally. who we are to judge others' behaviors? Nobody. We are nothing. Not even Master Jesus. Judged to Mary Magdalene. Right? Even when he is the highest hierarchy of the universe, he didn't judge her. Right? Why do we think we can judge others' behaviors? Right? When anyone appears in our life showing us any type of psychological effect, it's the moment to observe ourselves. Alright? To see what is moving, what type of psychological effect is acting, is reacting inside of each one of us. That's the perfect opportunity to discover ourselves. When anyone appears in our life with any type of psychological effect that we don't accept or we don't like, that's the opportunity to observe ourselves, to detect what is trying to react in a mechanical way. Immediately, there comes the inner petition. If there is envy inside of any one of us, resentment, criticism, sexual desires, anything, gluttony, greed, and so on, please, the mental, the inner petition to your Divine Mother. Please, my Divine Mother, delete me this fear, this envy, this resentment, this hate, this intolerance, etc., etc. So you are discovering yourself. You're taking advantage of those negative moments, apparently negative moments, to grow emotionally, to grow spiritually. Alright? So it's a matter of changing the attitude. It's a matter of reflecting about life in a different way. Because with this practical tool, psychological death, the dissolution, the elimination of our ego, we grow up from instant to instant. And remember something, when we don't accept others' defects, when we criticize the most others' behaviors, is because definitely we carry in our mind what we criticize the most. We wouldn't criticize others' behaviors if we don't carry exactly the same psychological defects on the outside. If we don't carry inside of our psyche those unacceptable psychological defects, we comprehend the person. And that's one of the goals. Instead of criticizing others' behaviors, it's better to comprehend others' behaviors. Alright? It makes us tolerant people. And how important is to educate tolerant people since the beginning of our lives. Alright? Remember, don't get confused. One thing is being tolerant, which is great and a half. But something absolutely different is being permissive. There are limits. Alright? And only with the awakening of our consciousness, observing ourselves, and immediately from instant to instant, as much as we can, gradually, daily, little by little, with that inner petition to our Divine Mother, releasing the consciousness, we'll know with precision, objectively, the limit between tolerance and being permissive. This is not right. Obviously, this is one of the goals, to be authentic alchemists, to be authentic spiritual masters, to achieve our own self-realization, authentic freedom. Alright? Yes, remember that. If anyone appears with a specific type of behavior, and we don't accept that specific behavior, we are reacting in a mechanic way. It bothers us. There is no doubt that definitively inside of our psyche, we carry it in the deepest levels of our mind. So if in that instant, in that moment, we ask to our inner mother to delete that external defect, which is a reflection of each one of us in this case, immediately we feel the change. With that releasing of consciousness, we learn to comprehend others' lives. But it was possible because firstly, we comprehended ourselves, working on ourselves, recognizing, detecting all those type of psychological effects that previously usually made us react in a mechanical way. Right? Instead of judging others, it's better to judge ourselves, to criticize ourselves, to apply that called self-criticism. Right? Self-criticism is a virtue of our own inner being. And it's fundamental if honestly we want to know ourselves. Self-criticism is a virtue of our inner being. Yes, again and again and all over again, instead of criticizing others' lives, others' behaviors, please, not only for your own good, also for a common good. Make it possible. Do it possible. self-criticism, which is quite different of judging others' lives. For our own good, we must judge ourselves. And through self-observation, we start our own analysis, our own reflections on our own psychological creations. Self-criticism is the base for our own authentic freedom. Right? This is a virtue of our inner being that allows us to comprehend ourselves. Without self-criticism, it's not possible to comprehend ourselves. And yes, if we comprehend ourselves, it's absolutely possible to comprehend others' behaviors. Then instead of judging others' lives and reacting in a mechanical, in a violent way, we'll live in peace, thanks to comprehension. Comprehension is a faculty of the heart, remember. It's not something of our minds. This is something of the heart. If we want to connect ourselves with our own hearts, it's necessary to start with self-observation, to then analyze, establish self-criticism inside of each one of us, to finally comprehend why we are like we are. Why we react in a mechanical way. Okay? Necessary to remember always this. To comprehend others' lives, others' behaviors. Not being permissive but tolerant, yet to comprehend others' lives, firstly, it's necessary to comprehend ourselves. And the base of it is self-observation. To rescue, to find again the virtue of our own inner being called self-criticism. Alright? So when we do it daily from instant to instant, or at least as much as we can, every single person in the external world, in this physical world, will be our own mirror. And it'll be great for our own esoteric work. Right? Right? So psychological death will be the most important thing in our lives. This incessant, this continuous fight will have two conditions to awake our own consciousness. There are two conditions to seriously feel the change inside. Right? Condition number 2. Please. This is something gradual, remember. I and all of us know it. Don't identify. Right? With the different events that all of us face in life, in this physical world. Don't identify, please. Better than this, identify your own psychological defects through self-observation. To don't identify with the external tragedies, comedies, and dramas. And condition number 2, to awake our own consciousness. don't judge others. Alright? Our consciousness won't fall asleep if we apply these two conditions. If we become this a reality, because these are the main conditions to awake our own consciousness. We lose too much time judging, criticizing others' behaviors. It's better to criticize, to judge ourselves, our own inner behaviors. If we change, the world change. Alright? We waste too much energy by judging others, criticizing others' behaviors. And we need all that energy in our own esoteric work, in our own transformation, in our own purification. A conscious person comprehends others' behaviors always. A real wise person, an authentic alchemist, never judges others' behaviors. Alright? He is not a permissive person. Not at all. Never. He has the precision to react in wise ways when it's needed. And don't react in a mechanical way. An authentic alchemist is not governed by ego, by psychological effects, mechanical reactions. His or her own inner being controls, governs, and leads his life. Talking about authentic alchemists, authentic esotericists, right? And the most important thing in life, our main goal on a planet like this one, our planet Earth, is only and basically the knowledge of oneself, right? Now, to finish this video conference topic, let's analyze these statements. First, we don't know ourselves. Right? Number two, we project our mistakes, our defects, in others. Alright? We project our psychological defects in the rest of the people that is around us. Right? What we are judging, number three, real situation number three, we judge external appearances. We don't seriously know the psychological reasons that made that person react in that specific way. Alright? And it leads us to the next real situation. Our judgments. Are not related with those actions, those behaviors, those others' behaviors. Right? So we judge in a wrong way others' behaviors. Right? And final real situation based on these previous statements and reflections. The judgment that we've expressed is in reality our own psychological defect reflected on that person. Alright? Let's work on our fears, on our concepts, on our excuses, justifications. Alright? Please, for our own good, no mercy with our own ego. Alright? Well, thank you very much for attending again this conference. And if there is any question or doubt about it, I will respond to you shortly, alright? Have a nice day.